Hey,
Hello, Michael.
hey, Ricky. What's up, my friend?
Not a lot. Just ready to start our show.
Uh, yeah. Let me finish this article.
Okay.
I'm reading this article, and it appears that there was a incident at the JFK airport yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was reported that a woman passed out on a baggage carousel. It says
Okay.
as other travelers were waiting for their luggage, airport officials came to investigate. But the situation resolved itself as the woman slowly came around.
Oh, that's bad. That's lame. That that is a dad joke if I've ever heard one. Maybe we should just start the show.
Yes.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend and my compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe.
Oh, my friend.
Hey. Well, we missed last Friday. We had a lot of stuff going on, but had some, your missus finally came home, so that's awesome.
Yes, my wife is finally home.
Awesome.
She has a brand new heart.
Awesome.
And it's not mechanical now.
That's awesome.
So I can't say she's heartless anymore.
I'll pass that. Tonight we're going to talk about the Tales of the Jedi. We were going to talk about that last Friday.
Yes.
I know it's been out probably now for a couple of weeks, but it's a very short, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very short, so it's easy to catch. But
yeah, there's only 6 episodes, and maybe one of them is 15 minutes long. Because like if you look at the times on them, they're like all over 15 minutes, but the last 4 minutes are credits on every one of them. So it's like less than an hour and a half probably to watch.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and they were short, but they were done well. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we had a lot of, it's just some news, some nerdy news.
Some kind of cool nerdy news and some sad nerdy news.
Exactly. Kevin Conroy, who played the voice of Batman, passed away this month.
Yes. Now he was the Batman the Animated Series, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, he was. Many people hold him as one of the best Batmans because of the animated series. Stuck really close to the writings of what many of the beginning comics. The beginning evolutions of Batman. So the writing was really well.
And Kevin Conroy had an amazing voice.
Yes, he did.
He did.
He understood the character and he played him well. So
yes, he did.
Yeah. So also too, you mentioned they are starting to go ahead.
Yes, they are starting production on The Acolyte. I had not heard that until just recently. Just started within the last few days, it looks like. And it's going to be a series that's set during the waning days of the age known as the High Republic. So this is hundreds of years before Phantom Menace. So this will be new territory that really we don't have a whole lot of information on, other than some recent books that have come out, which I have not read.
I have not read those. I know that Disney about a year ago started their publication of the High Republic, telling stories about it. The other games. There's games for the High Republic was called the Old Republic, which has to do actually besides books, they also had several video games that talked about the Old Republic. And so
So
Yeah,
expect to see lots of Jedi, I would think, and lots of
sure.
Jedi skills shown off.
Yeah, I think the acolytes, from my understanding, unless I'm wrong, will see a lot of Sith activity, um, and so I think between I don't know acolytes. We need to Google what acolytes actually mean, but I think it has a lot to do with the Sith, and of course the darkness coming upon the High Republic. So
That's highly possible.
yeah, so you have any other news?
Well, the only other thing I have is, and I don't know if this is news, but it's something I have just figured out recently.
Hmm.
You're familiar with Disney Plus. You're familiar
Yeah.
with Hulu,
Hmm.
and you know Disney has a bundle with
Yeah.
ESPN,
Yeah.
which for a lot of our nerds out there, that might not have any interest to you because you're not sports fans. Now, some of you may be, so maybe the bundle has always been on your radar.
Hmm.
However, with the coming price increases, if you are the kind of person who would subscribe to Hulu without ads, and now with the upcoming Disney Plus having a version with ads and a version without ads, um, if you're the kind of person who would pay for both of the without ads versions,
Hmm.
it's actually cheaper to get the without ads versions in the bundle with ESPN.
So you're telling me what a deal, Disney Plus. You're telling me if I add ESPN, it'll be cheaper?
Well, only because they're raising their prices.
So
If they weren't raising their prices, it wouldn't be.
so you're telling me that we could become proper men.
We could become proper men and have ESPN on our TVs.
That's right.
But yeah, it's so right now the current ad free price of Disney Plus is $7.99, but
Hmm.
that's going to go up to $10.99 in December. Um, if you want to stay ad free, if you
Yeah.
don't mind ads, you can stay at $7.99, and then uh, Hulu without ads um, is $14.99. So that's like, that's going to be like $26.
Oh wow.
But you can get ESPN bundle with the Hulu no ads and Disney Plus no ads for $19 and 99 cents. So $20. So you save like
Interesting.
$5 or $6 a month.
I mean, it's worth just doing it just to be able to save the $5. So
Yeah, if you want no ads. If you don't mind the ads, it would actually be cheaper to just get Hulu and Disney Plus if you're not interested in ESPN.
it's interesting. Our generation, we grew up with ads. Okay.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
I try to do Hulu with no ads, and I'm spoiled. I I
You
can't
tried
sit
to do
I
Hulu with
tried.
ads.
Yeah. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I know. I actually got frustrated while my wife was in the hospital. I got frustrated and I
Mhm.
bumped my subscription up to no ads.
Yeah. I know, I'm spoiled.
So,
This is first world issues, my friend. First world
absolutely.
issues.
I was binge
So,
watching I was binge watching Futurama while my wife was in the hospital, and I got tired of the ads and paid for the extra.
I don't I started binge watching a show that because they have a lot of old shows on Hulu,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the deal is, but I started watching Hill Street Blues,
Nice. That's a great
and
old show.
I started it, and I thought because I wanted a cop show, and I
Mhm.
realized that was the cop show that kind of started off where like NYPD Blues
Oh yeah.
and all these other cop shows, and it's just funny because at that time these shows were supposed to be pushing the edge, the envelope, and it just makes me kind of laugh what they consider that to
Yes.
be. And I don't know, it was kind of cool, and I'm still watching it. So anyway,
Very cool. Well, for those who are interested, Definitely check out the bundle if you're the kind of if you're a no ads person. It'll save you some money.
Well,
Any other nerdy news?
no, I think not any nerdy news, but I got plenty of stupid news.
All right.
That's
Well,
a nice,
let's do some stupid news.
nice segue.
It's the weird and stupid news with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
You know, for me, sometimes when I look at a little toad,
Sorry.
we just go ahead. I can't go ahead.
Well, okay. So I'll tell you why I got distracted.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, we use this system to record
Yes.
because
Uh-huh.
for those of you who are not watching us, if you're just listening, you might not realize Mike and I are not in the same room.
No,
We're not in the same house. We're not even in the same town. We're not in the same county.
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure. We might not be in the same area code now.
No.
You may be in a different area code
I'm in a
officially.
different area. Yes.
So we use this system, and there's a new feature that I just saw where it says recording
Mhm.
over on the right, and it distracted me because when there was a little notification and I had to click on it, and the notification said that once we're done recording, we have to wait until it's finished uploading. So I don't know what that
I
means.
don't know what that means. That's kind of
I
scary.
don't know. That's a new thing.
That's a new
It's
thing.
literally like I just did an interview using the
Yeah.
same system like less than 5 days ago,
Yeah.
and now there's a whole new feature, and I don't
Oh,
know what it
man.
actually does. And it is distracting me, so I didn't have the videos ready. I'm so
afraid.
sorry.
I saw it, but I was afraid to click on it. So no,
Anyway,
it's okay.
sorry. So I got distracted.
No,
Now
it's
back to the
okay.
show.
No, it's okay.
For those of you who like some behind the scenes, there you go.
There you go. And if you don't, well, who cares? Too bad. It's all about us. So anyway, when I think of, little adorable frogs, like this little guy right here, a little guy, if you can, yeah, it looks scary. Yeah.
That reminds me of Hypnotoad from Futurama. Speaking of Futurama earlier.
Well, there is a saying, but this is even more true now. The National Park Services are warning people to please do not lick toads.
Have you ever been frog kissing?
No, I haven't.
If you ain't, you don't know what you've been missing. That's a song, by the way.
Yeah,
if you weren't familiar with that song.
No.
Have you ever been frog kissing? If you ain't, then you don't know what you've been missing. I don't even remember.
I don't know, but I know
all the song I know.
All I know, this part's going to be cut out on the reel. So on Instagram reel, so that's okay.
The Forestry Service has requested we not lick the toads.
Yeah, they're saying, as tasty it might look, you should refrain from licking the Sonoran desert toad. That's right, the Sonoran desert toad, which I know that I sometimes, when I walk by a toad, I go, only if I could, So, but not really. So on Tuesday, the National Park Service used Facebook to warn bypassers to use caution around Sonoran desert toads, also known as Colorado River toads.
Okay.
The amphibian is one of the largest toads found in North America, measuring up to 7 inches, according to Facebook post. Yeah. The toad is it's a big toad. Now they said the toad's call is distinctive low-pitched toot. Says the national
low-pitched toot.
Yeah, that's what it says on the article.
Okay. Sounds like a big fart. What? I'm not sure what that means.
But the toads also boast a unique feature. They have glands that secrete potent toxins.
Okay.
So that's their concern about that. So the National Park Services recommends people who encounter the toad, please refrain from licking.
Okay. I will refrain from licking the toads.
Even though these toxins can make humans sick, they have been exploited for other ends. According to the Oakland Zoo, the
I can't
toxin
imagine.
I can't imagine. I know. The toxins are powerful psychedelic when smoked. Smoking
Smoke
uh,
your toad.
smoking the desert toad's secretion causes euphoria and strong auditory hallucinations.
Auditory?
That's what it says.
So you hear things.
Yeah,
Now that's interesting.
that's kind of creepy. It said, according to the zoo, processing toads poisons known as bufetin is illegal in California.
Don't even think about it.
So
Don't even think about it.
so anyway,
You're saying these toads are illegal in California.
yes. I mean, which is funny to me because they have so many psychedelic medications out there. I mean, I can imagine going to the field and seeing 20 people laid out on the grass licking frogs.
Can I get my toad card?
Exactly. It'd be a little cross with a frog in the front.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad we don't have them in Oklahoma. There would be a toad store on every corner.
I know it. If that's not bad enough, in the news, a North Carolina woman cited by police for shooting Mountain Dew cans in the backyard. Don't do
Okay.
this.
Don't shoot Mountain Dew cans in the
Don't
backyard.
do it. Don't do it. This week, a North Carolina woman was issued a criminal citation for shooting a Diet Mountain Dew cans in her backyard. That's right. Gastonian Police Department officers responded to reports of shots fired in the neighborhood and found a 64-year-old woman who said she was firing a pistol at soda cans because she disapproved of her father drinking them.
Wait, 64-year-old woman
Yes.
disapproved of her father
Yes.
drinking. Okay, this is getting more interesting because I'm thinking when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I mean, now I didn't have a 22 pistol,
Yes.
but I did have a BB gun, pellet gun
Yeah.
that I
Exactly.
shot, Coke cans and
Yeah.
various sundry cans
True.
on a regular basis.
Yes.
But I lived out in the country on 2 acres.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I shot into woods. Like we only lived on like the front half an acre,
Mhm.
and then everything else was just woods. So it wasn't like a neighborhood.
No, I mean it's Latin. Yeah, exactly.
And now it's not just a neighborhood, it's a 64-year-old woman who doesn't like her father drinking Diet Mountain Dew.
The department added, we totally understand that not everybody is a fan of the Dew. But we can't stress enough how dangerous this is. Furthermore,
do toad. Quit doing the do the toad.
If you haven't learned anything from this show, just remember that. Furthermore, there are much safer alternatives to disposing of beverages that you don't like instead of using the full bottles as target practice. Say surrounded by other. Let me do that again because I'll cut this out. Furthermore, there are much safer alternatives to disposing of beverages that you don't like instead of using full bottles as target practice in your backyard, your neighborhood, and surrounded by other homes and people.
Oh my gosh.
The department added guns and Diet Mountain Dew don't mix. Of course, the woman was cited for discharging firearms within city limits. And my friends, that is the stupid news.
That was the weird and stupid news with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty good, yeah. But I like that. I like that. Don't do the do the toad.
Do toad.
Maybe we can print some
slogan.
You know what we could do? We could print t-shirts.
That's a t-shirt.
That would be the show. That can be the show's t-shirt. We could do that.
Do the toad.
Do the toad.
I smoke toad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so wrong.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about the Tales of the Jedi, which came out a
Yes.
couple of weeks ago
On Disney Plus.
on Disney Plus. That's right, and it's basically it's 6 shows ranging from 10 to 17 minutes. The animation reminds me of a little bit of the Clone Wars animated
Yeah.
series. This is
I
done.
actually really like the look.
I really do. This was done by Dave Filoni,
Mhm.
who also did the Clone Wars, the animated series.
Makes sense.
Personally, I think as far as the animation, I think it's the best non-live action Star Wars. It feels like we were saying before, it's kind of a polished version, just a tad up from the animation
Mhm.
Clone Wars. It looks,
Yeah.
yeah. So
You can
I
tell it's a newer
yeah, you can tell that.
they've upgraded the system a little bit, but it's still it tries to capture that style. It does really look good, I
It
think.
does, because you'll see a lot of characters. You'll see a few characters from the previous Clone
Mhm.
Wars series that show up throughout this set of 6 episodes. It's really interesting because the focuses. I understood that they were going to focus a little bit on Ahsoka Tano, but
Yes.
they do a really good job on Count Dooku, which is a character that really people don't know much about except for the actual movies of the
Right.
Clone Wars.
Yeah, and
Um,
he's not in a lot.
no, no, I think he's what movie he's just in. It would be is the
Is he in
first and the
2 and
second one.
3 or the first and second one?
I think the first and second one. And I think the third one was basically mainly was Anakin and Palpatine. I
Right.
don't think Dooku was in that anymore.
I
But
couldn't remember which one he died in
I want to
because he
say
dies at the very beginning of one of the movies. So
I, I
that's either the second or third movie.
I think it's the second one. I think it might be the Clone Wars.
You're probably right.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, and they have the original voice actors, Ahsoka Tano, who plays Ashley Eckstein, which at one time a lot of people was pushing for her to actually play in the live action series that's coming up. But I like the actress that they picked, and I look forward to seeing her. I always can never remember her name. Um, you remember
Which actress?
the actress is playing Ahsoka Tano on the live action.
Oh,
Mm,
I don't remember name.
exactly, exactly. I should never bring up anything I can't remember. That should be a golden rule for me. But but no, actually, there's like 3 episodes, and in kind of a nutshell, folks. One that will be this is going to
Rosario
be
Dawson.
yeah, and the thing
Rosario
is,
Dawson.
and I don't know if we need to tell everyone that there will be spoilers. Let me hit that real quick.
Oh yeah.
I think you've had plenty of time to watch it, and they're not very long. So
No.
I sat down, thought, when it came out, I thought, I don't have a whole lot of time. I want to get to bed, so I'll watch 1 or 2. By the time I was done, I saw all 6 of them. And so, but really, if you think about it, it's almost just an hour with all of them together.
Yeah,
Uh,
hour and a half tops if you
yeah,
watched all of the credits.
and I skipped through the credits. So
Yeah.
anyway, there was no post credit stuff. So
Right.
yeah, so you don't have to worry about that. But there's 3 episodes, and I don't know. I really found the story of Count Dooku compelling. I don't know if you. It was almost. I think one of the most significant accomplishments they did in this series was, um, you know, tur- Dooku was more of a tragic figure, and
Yes.
and and there's a and when as you're going through these couple of episodes, you start to understand the way he's feeling. You see some corruption within the Republic,
Mhm.
how the Jedi's basically, as he put it, are lapdogs of the Senate. And you can kind of see some of that. You can see in some of those episodes where Dooku actually thinks outside the box.
Mhm.
And I think, I had a, in my notes as a title, it says "Tale of Two Former Jedis." We're reminded that the Jedi Council sucks. And yes, I said that.
Well, and it's kind of an interesting. There's an interesting dichotomy here.
Yeah, it really is.
We have two Jedi.
Yeah,
We have Ahsoka Tano and we have Count Dooku.
yeah,
Two Jedi who both leave the Order
yes, exactly.
because they're both disillusioned with the Jedi Council
Yeah,
and the Jedi ways, but they choose distinctly different paths.
exactly. They still choose their own path. And I think part of it too has to be the company that they surrounded themselves with.
Mhm.
Dooku was already in the pawn of, later on was the pawn of Palpatine.
Yes,
And then, of course, Ahsoka Tano was the Padawan of
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 Anakin.
Anakin. And keep in mind throughout the series, and even in the end, at that time, when Anakin did cross over, he became Vader, she still didn't know. She didn't know that Anakin was Vader. She thought
Right,
Anakin was dead.
right.
So, uh, so anyway, but so anyway, that's the mindset of the series right now.
Mhm.
And so, but anyhow, we have. Let's just kind of go through a little bit of it.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go. Now, there's an episode called "Life and Death,"
Yes. So we
and
see the birth. Well, we don't literally see the birth, but
yeah,
we see Ahsoka Tano as born and as what, a 1 year old. Is that right?
yeah, kind of a toddler. I would say 1 year old, basically.
I think they
Um,
said that. I think they made some vague comment about it's already been a year.
yeah,
So I
exactly.
assume that meant a year since she was born.
And I think the whole series is focused. That episode focused on Ahsoka at a young age having
Mhm.
kind of force-like tendencies,
Yes.
very force sensitive, if you would.
Yes.
Want. And so in this, in the process, she was able, as far as a predator that she was captured by, the predator saw the force within her, and
Mhm.
within that he was tamed. And you just saw it was almost kind of like we've seen in the Mandalorian with Yoda, baby Yoda,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, we see Grogu
yeah,
stop the monsters
yeah.
from time
So
to time. So we see that with Ahsoka as well. And I thought that was a nice little thing there.
I thought so too. It was there were some really good shots in it. Like I said, the animation is really good. I really enjoy the animation. So
Mhm.
definitely. But uh, I think the next one is called Resolve. It goes back and forth between Ahsoka and Dooku.
Yeah, we get the first
And
Ahsoka, and then
yeah,
we get 3 episodes of Dooku,
yeah,
and then we get 2 more episodes of Ahsoka,
yeah.
which is kind of weird. But I think they might almost be in chronological order. I'm not
Yeah,
positive, but
I
it
think
seems like
so.
they might be.
Yeah, I think so. I have a feeling that if you look at it, it does take kind of a chronological order of the timeline. So, Soko's young, and of course, at the time, you have Dooku and his apprentice, which is Qui-Gon Jinn, by the way.
Who
If
looks nothing like Qui-Gon in
no,
that first
no,
episode.
no, not at all. Uh, yeah, he doesn't. He looks more like I don't know. He looks more like I can't like a
I
rocker. I don't know, or
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
It's like
It's
it's almost like he looks slightly like a more rugged Luke Skywalker.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, this I think what is it?
This one's Justice, right?
Justice, yes, would be Justice. This is where you kind of see Dooku. Well, this is the one where you kind of see Dooku kind of having a little bit of. I think this is where he deals with his. He deals. with his role as a
Mhm.
Jedi Knight and
And who he serves.
who he serves.
Because in this one, it seems more like he is having issues with the Senate.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with the council yet,
No.
but he's not quite sure that the Senate is really doing its job.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. I think, yeah, he feels like he's confronted, and he feels like the failure of the republic. He sees the politics, the
Mhm.
corruption, especially concerning this senator, and this particular senator his son was abducted by the people of his planet. Well, you
Right.
find out later that these people actually are very poor, and they've been, and the
And
senator,
it's not just any planet, it's
no,
his
it's
planet.
his planet.
The
And
planet that he is supposed to be representing.
And so the two Jedi Knights, Dooku and Qui-Gon, they show up and they just see that these people are just living in poverty
Mhm.
and this oppressiveness. And so eventually they find out that they're holding him hostage, and they come in and they see the son of the senator. And even the son is sympathetic to the people. Uh,
Yes.
He's very shocked. He even tells the Jedis, he said, "I don't blame them for abducting me. I mean, look at them." She said, "I spent all
Mhm.
my life on croissant."
Croissant.
I love me some croissant. So, yeah, and as I can't help it now, I have the Pillsbury Doughboy in my mind. Flaky. I'm so distracted now with that goodness. So anyway, get past that, get past it, get past it. Okay, and the next thing is that he's never been exposed to what's happened
Right.
on his planet. And so at the time, you can hear the senator with his army, his guards coming
Mhm.
in, and of course, there's a confrontation. And within the confrontation, we see Dooku finally kind of rearing up his hackles, and
Yes.
he goes out and he finally almost slays the senator himself, and his sons runs out and says, tries to stop him,
Yes.
and of course finally Qui-Gon, his apprentice, stop kind of makes some sense, try to talk him out of it. And what's interesting, if you see it, is on these different steps, it's that it's almost like Dooku is almost, he realizes after his Padawan stops him, he
Mhm.
realizes that what he was about to do.
Yes.
It was almost, you can see in his face this conflict of, what was I doing? What was I
I
going to do?
I lost myself for a moment.
Yeah, yeah. And so
It's almost that moment of, I think I was right
yeah,
to do, like, doing what I was doing wouldn't be considered wrong in my
no,
mind,
no,
but it might not have been the best.
exactly. Was
And
and
Qui-Gon chose the better option.
exactly. Well, and he even, and it's even in the end of the episode, Dooku made a comment to Qui-Gon thinking, basically that, you have a lot of wisdom that I can learn from. Um, and
Mhm.
so you see the relationship between the two men, which is interesting because you never get to see that relationship
Right.
between the two. And it makes later on in another episode where he finds out the death of his former apprentice.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That let's wait on
Yeah,
that.
let's do that. It so yeah, so anyway, you see so anyway, at the end of that episode, I mean, I was kind of, I mean, it's hard not to root for Dooku in that situation. Here he is
Yes.
trying to protect these people, and the only thing he knows what to do is go after the chain of command, which is the senator, and
Yeah.
grabbing him. But instead of capturing him, taking him to justice, he was going to be the justice. He was going to be the judge.
Mhm.
And luckily for his son and Qui-Gon, they they thwart that. So,
Yes.
but
So
also,
then,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, so, um, are we ready to go into the next episode?
Yeah, I think the next episode is called, is it choices.
choices.
Yeah,
And I was a little confused on this one.
yeah.
They're equals, right? In this episode?
On this episode, they're equals, and what's
Okay,
interesting
I
about
wasn't
this,
sure at first because
yeah,
at first it almost felt like Dooku was kind of the superior, but then not quite. It was a little confusing to me.
well, there was almost like this ego going on.
Mm,
Even with Windu, it's an episode
yeah,
where Windu and Dooku, they're investigating a death of a Jedi,
yes,
and so in that process, they're basically, I guess, oh, they were supposed to retrieve the body of the
yes.
Jedi
They
and
were
bring it.
bringing the body
Yes.
back to the council.
So their jobs was not to investigate, it was to pick up the Jedi.
Yes.
But Dooku, he wanted to investigate. He
Hmm.
wanted to take things on his own and investigate. He had several thoughts. He was talking to Windu about how, how could this happen? How could this Jedi, who is well trained and well known, would be ambushed?
Hmm.
It doesn't make sense. And of course, Windu is totally by the book. He says, "We're not here to do anything but do the wishes of the Jedi Council." And so you see the dichotomy between the two, the difference between the two, where Windu, he is by the book, by the code,
Yes.
which even Dooku mentions within the episode.
Yes.
And of course, Windu made a comment about where we are not about ego, but about following what we have been given to do. And
And do you feel like in the movies, Mace Windu was the same? That's why he turned down Anakin. That's why, I mean, that's why they didn't instantly go after the Emperor.
I think so. I think so.
He was trying to do it by the book,
Yes.
and in the end, he was too late.
Well, it's the downfall of the Jedi Council, of the Temple, because you can see some of this. You can see the blame on both sides, but
Mhm.
I think there was a sense of here I am my commentary. There was a sense of arrogance within the Jedi Council, and the arrogance of
Mhm.
I'm the master and you're not. So
Yes.
and we've seen this in many other series, and like you said, a good example is Ahsoka and Dooku. They, because of their ways, they parted ways with the Jedi, with the Jedi Order. But
Yeah.
what we see later on, as Dooku investigates, he finds out, who kills, the
Who
Jedi.
really killed the
Yeah,
Jedi.
but later on, this is the thing, and this is the part getting close to the end. Getting close to the end, even though Dooku, found the killer, brought him to
Mhm.
justice at the end, because Windu did what he was supposed to do. He was appointed as now in the Jedi Council,
And Dooku was overlooked,
overlooked. And I'm
passed
sure,
over.
and you
I
think about,
guess
yeah, and I think that didn't help.
I'm sure that didn't help on his pathway to the dark side.
Yeah. So that I think that is I think that has a
S-
lot to do with it.
So this whole thing, this whole series, I've always thought Dooku was a weird character.
Yeah.
Even before this, I've
Yeah.
always thought Dooku was a weird character
Yeah.
because he was on the side of the Sith, kind of.
Kind of.
He was kind of against the Jedi. He wasn't really on the side of the Senate. But he was also playing the part of both sides.
The separatist, yes.
Yeah, he was acting with the separatists, and he's acting with the Empire, or
Yeah.
it wasn't called the Empire yet.
Yeah.
The Republic.
Yeah.
So he's playing both sides, and even when he is serving Darth Sidious,
Mhm.
he's serving the Emperor. It doesn't quite feel like he's truly serving the Emperor.
No, and I think that I think at the time, I mean, it's because he's very involved with the Separatist,
Yes.
and of course, because eventually it comes down to it where, and I think it becomes more evident after the loss of his former Padawan that I, I think I think that fuels the fire for him.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting that he stands alongside the Separatists.
mhm,
At the same time, he is also the guy
mhm.
who went and started the clone army for the Republic.
Yes, exactly.
S- He did the worst things on both
Oh
sides
yeah.
that he could do.
Well, and it's mostly, and it was all in the name of basic. Well, he was total obedience to Darth Sidious, which we know was Palpatine, who was
Right.
he was orchestrating this whole thing in the first place. The war
Yeah.
between the Separatist and the Republic.
Yes.
You know,
It's just always been he's always been a weird character to
and
me.
I
That
think
it's
so
like
too.
when did he it's like was he always kind of with Palpatine? Like he been with Palpatine, you would think if he really had that big of a problem with the Senate, he wouldn't fall in with Palpatine. But then he falls into the Sith. It's just a strange little setup for him.
Well, it makes me wonder whether he actually knew Palpatine was the Sith. Did he know that he was Darth Sidious? Because he never shows himself, to in this without his robe on. I've never seen anything any in the animated series
Mm,
or in the actual live movies. I've never seen that.
it's an
He
interesting question.
so
I'm not sure. I'd have to think through. I'd have to actually watch closer to
yeah.
see. But that's an interesting idea. Did Dooku ever actually know that Palpatine was the Sith
Now
Lord?
I don't know if there's any books based on that. That'd be interesting. That may be
Hmm.
something we do some research on, but and that's what I wonder. Does he know that? Um,
You
maybe
would think he would, but
you would think so. You would think so.
I mean,
Uh,
he made it really clear to Anakin who he was.
mhm. Yes, he did. But as Palpatine, he was guiding Anakin as Palpatine, and then showed who he really was.
Yeah.
Excuse me, with Darth Sidious, I don't know if he's ever did that. I don't know if he ever presented himself as the chancellor. So I don't know.
Interesting.
And you, where is that timeline where Sidious? I mean, where Dooku actually is exposed to Darth Sidious? That's a good
I
question too.
Well, other than the next episode, which is called
Exact.
The Sith Lord,
Yes,
this is the first time we really see them together.
exactly. We really
But
do.
but then your question of does he even really know that he's Palpatine? And that could be unclear. I could see that being unclear.
Well, on this one, we kind of have a weird, and which is strange. This whole thing was strange to me. Was a Yoda with hair? Okay, now
Well,
this
it's Yaddle.
is
Yes,
Yaddle,
so
but
this is the female Yoda.
which is strange to me because, and I've heard there's books. It's canon. There's some books. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
legendary or if it's in. Well, now I guess it is within the current canon because there you are. But I always had this thought that Yoda was the only species.
A
He
singular.
singular species, and that's what made
Well,
Grogu so special later on, in that he was of the same species.
in episode 1 of the Phantom Menace,
Yeah,
Yaddle is on the she is on the board.
the
She's on the
council.
Jedi Council. So
Really?
she's in the room. If you watch closely, I don't think she says anything. It's a brief moment, and she's only in the first movie. So fast forward to um, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith,
Yeah.
when they show the council, she's not there. She's not seated.
Yeah.
She's only seated in the first episode. And this episode, the Sith Lord, which is the fifth episode of this, or fourth episode of this series, new series. This is all happening. Well, the first part of it, like the first 5 minutes of it, happens before or right after. I think maybe during the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 minutes all happens just after Phantom Menace and before the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, and you think about this particular episode, like you were saying, this is the episode where he found out that his apprentice was killed on Tatooine. Was it Tatooine? I believe so. No. It wasn't Tatooine. It was,
where were they on Phantom Menace?
Well,
it was on
it wasn't Naboo.
It was Naboo.
Yeah, but he wasn't killed on Naboo. He was killed. They were the young boy, because they went after young boy Anakin.
Yeah, no, they went back to Naboo.
Naboo.
That's where they were.
Oh, well, always, Naboo, what a wonderful place. So anyway.
And that's why the funeral was going to be on Naboo, because that's where the body was. They decided not, for some reason, they decided not to bring it back. They're going to have the funeral there on Naboo.
Well, it's has nice scenery, I guess. But yes, okay, I was corrected. So
yes, he finds out that his apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, which is no longer his apprentice because now Qui-Gon is a master.
Well, you do see the scene where he leaves. Qui-Gon leaves, and he takes a nod on his old master, and and he goes with his new apprentice, which he kind of looked weird. The Obi-Wan, the young Obi-Wan looked a little different.
Obi-Wan looked a little different.
So
I thought that was interesting. But
this timeline,
this weird. So we have this weird spot, and then we jump forward to after his death, Qui-Gon's death.
Yeah, so this is basically between, like you said, between the very end, the Phantom Menace, and maybe right between, probably between the Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars. So,
and this is an interesting thing that I read, which I was a little unclear on.
Yeah,
apparently, it was said that Yaddle stepped down from the council for whatever reason. I don't know that there's a given reason, but she stepped down from the council.
Yeah.
So when she meets him, when she meets Dooku in this episode, she basically says she's no longer on the council.
Interesting.
But then big spoiler, he kills her in the end.
Yeah.
Of this episode. And so the fact that she stepped down, and the fact that the council really only deals with stuff that's happening in the council.
Yeah.
They just kind of forget about her.
Yeah, exactly.
So they wouldn't even mention that she had died, because they wouldn't know she had died.
Yeah.
She left the council, and out of sight, out of mind as far as the council is concerned.
No, I totally agree that I find this whole interesting in this entire, and I'll talk about it a little bit later because I have some thoughts on this entire series. But I think the biggest thing for me is when in this particular episode is when Dooku confronts, and basically he goes see Darth Sidious because in a way he's angry.
Yes.
He comes to him and say, was it necessary to kill my former apprentice?
Yes.
And so, and then, the Lord Sidious says, well, there's cost, there's a cost to this war.
There's a cost to everything.
Cost to everything. And so, and this is where, I think there's a little bit of conflict there. The whole Anakin, Luke Skywalker conflict within, but he had to show his loyalty by killing Yaddle. So Yaddle,
Yada,
Yada,
Yaddle, Yaddle, I
yada,
believe.
yada, yada, yada. So,
Yaddle's the way I pronounce it.
so after this, we go into, and I think this is the last two is with Ahsoka Tano, which is really interesting stuff. We get into it where I guess it's the next one is practice makes perfect.
Okay, so I have a big question here.
Okay.
So practice makes perfect. This is Ahsoka getting ready for the Jedi, the trials,
Yes.
so that she can, or actually taking the trials.
Yeah,
So I guess she's in the middle of the trials.
In the middle of the trials that every young Jedi, young apprentice or Padawan has to go through.
So this has been a problem that I have wondered about for a long time.
Okay.
So let me see. How do I say this right? Okay. Anakin is not a master.
No.
Why does Anakin have a Padawan if he's not a master?
Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't know if there's levels of Jedi where you are Padawan, there's a Jedi, a Master Jedi, and I have a think, and that's what I think it is. And as to be able to be in the Jedi Council, you have to be a Master Jedi. That's my understanding. I'm sure somebody who's listening out there saying you don't know what you're talking about, take off that hat. But from my understanding, because I had to try to grasp that too. But understand also too, Obi-Wan, he ended up taking Anakin under his wing when he was a child after Qui-Gon.
But he took the trials.
Who's that?
So Obi-Wan says, he initially says, I definitely will train you. No. Qui-Gon says, I'll train you, but you can't be my apprentice.
Exactly.
Okay. So then he asks Obi-Wan to take over, but Obi-Wan took the trials because he said, there's that conversation of, I am ready for the trials. So he actually did take the trials shortly after Qui-Gon died.
Yes.
So he could take an apprentice. So that one makes sense to me.
Yes, but for her to take the trials, she was still... she never actually became... She was always Anakin's apprentice.
But why did he get...
No, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, why does he get an apprentice? That's the thing I'm confused about. Yeah. And I always have been. Yeah. And I just have never asked the question, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, some things we try to leave in the closet, Ricky, and that was one. And the M word too as well. So so it'll be interesting. You can look it up. For some reason I have this whole Padawan. First you're a student, a youngling, you're a Padawan, you're a Jedi, then Master Jedi, and I guess a Jedi can have an apprentice.
Even if they're not a master.
Not even they're a master.
Okay, so that's the thing that was confusing me.
Yeah,
I was under the impression that you couldn't be you couldn't have an apprentice unless you were a master.
Now, my understanding, you can't be in the Jedi Council unless you've reached Jedi Master.
Right.
So anyway,
well, you're not supposed to be, but they did accept him onto the council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
Master. Yes. Yeah. I'm sure it was a Dooku moment there for him too. So anyway, but back to the episode of Practice Makes Perfect. So you can see where Anakin, he comes off as a jerk, but really in the long run, he just wants to make sure that, Ahsoka Tano is ready for any situation. And so he gets Captain Rex, who is one of my favorite characters within the Clone Wars. He brings him and his men together, and he wanted Ahsoka Tano to do something that was more than trying to battle a bunch of battle droids, but actually well trained enemies. And
Yes.
so this is why they went through the process. Now, what's
Mhm.
interesting and later on, as through this process ends, and of course, Ahsoka Tano doing this training with the clone troopers, she takes a beating over and over. I mean,
Yes.
she's knocked out. It's 2 hours later. She gets knocked out. It's 3 hours later. I mean, we're talking about a 48-hour training because I keep having to wait for her to wake up because
Yeah.
because they're using stun. Basically they have
Yes.
her guns to stun. So anyway,
But this is a great idea,
yeah,
because this answers the question, how how does how do certain Jedi survive Order 66
yeah,
and
exactly.
other Jedi don't?
Yeah, but
Well,
we
the Jedi that survive have more practice with real people.
well, you think about it, the most powerful Jedi, which is Anakin,
Mhm.
is the one who trained Ahsoka, and
Yes.
we find out that Ahsoka, she's a pretty, I'll say it, she's a badass. I mean, Ahsoka,
Yeah.
she is very strong in the Force, even though she's no longer with the Jedi Temple. She's very much capable. I
Yes.
mean, we even see that in the animated series and also in the Republic series, animated series, where she takes on her uh, Anakin herself as as he is playing as he's Darth Vader. So
Mhm.
she was able to go toe to toe with her former master in some of
Yes.
the episodes. So it says a lot about her abilities
Mhm.
as a Jedi and using the Force. And so anyway, but as we get into it, getting to the end of this particular episode, as it fades out and it fades back in. And if you remember
Mhm.
seeing the last episode of the Clone Wars animated series, you remember the scene where they come together. And in this particular scene, which you don't actually hear Rex say, he says basically, I hope we're going to find out how well your training prepared you for this. And
Yes.
then there's a scene that many of us remember from the very last episode where Rex acts like Ahsoka is a prisoner and walks out before all these clone troopers, which everyone except for Rex at the time has the chip. And
Yes.
so, mindful in this situation, Rex had the chip taken out of his brain
Mhm.
and kept him from following the orders of Order 66. It's a great
Right.
episode. If you hadn't seen the Clone Wars, at least watch the last two seasons, or at least the
Mhm.
last season. It's really good. But we carry on after this, and of course, carry on after this, and this is basically the next one is Resolve, and it basically begins at the funeral of Padme, which
Yes. So
is
this is
really the big
right at the very end of
Revenge of Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Now, which is interesting, if you look at the movie, you see the live action of Padme in the casket,
Yes.
and then in the episode, they have exactly the same thing. The same.
Yes.
It's almost identical in the
It
beginning.
almost like they did a shot for shot right there.
Exactly. And then you see Ahsoka Tano in the audience. Now, this is where I guess this is where I'll begin. It's Dave Filoni is a master of taking these characters and inserting them throughout the movies,
Yes.
which in the movies, I don't even think there were a twinkle in George Lucas'
Oh
eyes.
no. No. Dave
No,
Filoni has become a master at fitting things in where they should have happened,
exactly.
even though they were never thought of.
Exactly.
Which is honestly, Dave Filoni wrote all 6 of these episodes.
Yes, he did.
The story I heard is these were written in the airplane when he was traveling back and forth while
Really?
he was working on some other project for Star Wars. I don't remember which project he was
Wow.
working on. Maybe Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But he wrote these on the airplane while he was traveling, and yeah, he fits them in just perfectly.
Yeah, because you think about it, and
By the way, Speaking of fitting things in, remind me when we get to the very end of this episode to make a comment.
Okay, we'll do that.
So yes, so she's at the funeral,
Yes.
and Organa sees her, which is
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
So Organa would have known who she was.
Exactly. Yeah. So and she knows because there was meetings in the animated series. They had
Right.
crossings with one another. She knew Padme, and of course, but and so I find it how they carried this. It's because you get to the point where now we're at the end of the Sith, and this continues into after Revenge of the Sith and getting into the beginning days of the Empire.
Yes.
The early stages. And it's, he talks basically at the very end. Basically at the very end, she ends up leaving. And what's interesting in the situation is that Rex is there waiting for her after the funeral.
Yeah,
and
that was a nice touch.
It was a nice touch because it showed the relationship between the two, the friendship between the two. And so, and there's so much story to tell. There's so much story to tell about Rex, Captain Rex, what happens to him after this point. We see him in Bad Batch, which basically this is after this. I think he is reintroduced as in Bad Batch. We give an indication in Bad Batch that he is starting his own rebellion, and I think he's trying to find clones that are in the same that have not been affected by the chip.
Right.
So you have this going on, and so you just see how this all evolves into getting close to New Hope. So it's and how all these characters fit in. Like I said, I'm really. I think I would love to do an episode of we go, where's Dave Filoni, and we just go through and we fit the characters within these series. And I think that
we have the rest of this episode's a little bit of an outlier because it's kind of Ahsoka hiding in plain sight.
Exactly.
Exactly. But then eventually we see her use her Jedi powers and get recognized.
Exactly.
And finally we get an Inquisitor showing up to get rid of her.
Yeah. How does that go?
Doesn't go well for the Inquisitor.
I mean, it was it was pretty much she basically just ate a sandwich in front of him and killed him. I mean, it's basically I'm being sarcastic, but it goes back to that she is very strong in the Force.
Yes.
And she is very capable.
Absolutely. So they wrap up this story. She finally reaches out to Organa again. And when she reaches out to Organa, that's a great idea that she gives back the little transmitter that she had been using, that she could communicate with him somehow. And he shows up and he takes the last 3 struggling survivors from this village to a planet that's about to explode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because, our village just burned down. We need a new place to live. Let's go to Alderaan.
Hey, what a great place to go. It's a magical place. Alderaan.
That's when I saw them walk onto the ship with Organa, my first thought was, well, that didn't last long.
Sucks to be you.
That's so bad, but that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like,
it would have been,
man,
I would have been priceless.
You left a planet that's going to stick around.
Yes.
Because your town burned down, to go to a planet that's going to blow up in like a year.
I think it would have been classic if the very last person before they went up goes and looks back and go, I have a funny feeling about this. and
I have
then
a
walk.
bad feeling
Got a
about
bad
this.
feeling about this.
Oh
Exactly.
my
So
gosh.
I know.
Oh,
I
speak
got a bad feeling about this.
Exactly. So go
speaking
ahead.
of, I'm pretty sure I heard a Wilhelm scream in the first episode, but I don't recall anybody saying I have a bad feeling about this in this whole series.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Usually that line gets used somewhere,
I know.
but
He
I
does,
don't think he did use it. Of course,
I
he had to use sparing dialogue because he only had 10 to 15 minutes in each episode.
yeah. If I have to sum up the season, and I don't know if there's going to be another one or not. This is probably maybe a one-time deal, but one thing I liked about the series, it never flinched away from criticizing the Jedi,
Nope.
and while also revealing how seductive the Sith can be at a person's lowest point. Even though Ahsoka and Captain Rex was never a concept during the prequels. I loved how Dave Filoni did a remarkable job fitting these characters within the canon, which we talked about.
Yes.
Not only that, but he made them relevant to the prequels. They weren't just extras.
Yes.
And I really do think he gave new breath to the prequels. I think it
Yes.
added to the prequels.
And I think my favorite part is kind of going back to what I said earlier.
Yeah,
I love that he took two people that became disillusioned with the system they were in
yeah,
and showed how vastly different their reactions could be.
yeah. And I really do think they touched, especially with a ton of Ahsoka, they really touched on some of the best stories from the animated series. They, close to the timeline of some really landmark moments
Yes.
within the movies. So yeah. So anyway, I enjoyed it. It's a quick watch, so I recommend
Yes.
anybody who's a fan to watch it.
Absolutely.
So
This is a great little anthology series.
yes,
I hope they do more.
I do too. I think there's so
It
many
would be
more
great
stories.
to have, give us I mean, we got some Yoda stories kind
Yeah,
of in the Clone Wars series.
yeah,
But it'd be great to have some, more Yoda backstory.
yeah. It has some backstory there.
Or give us some more Qui-Gon when he's just starting to train Obi-Wan.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who else they could give us, but there's just so many people they could choose. It is Tales of the Jedi. So
yeah,
you gotta, if you're gonna stick with that name, we have to stick with Jedi.
yeah. I mean,
Now,
yeah,
and you mentioned this, and I have questions.
hmm
You mentioned how well it weaves in and out, and it seems to make everything in the films and shows seems to all fit.
hmm
I was listening to some people, they said some of this might contradict some novels that are considered canon,
hmm
but it's a little unclear.
yeah.
Do you feel like this is supposed to be canon, or are these just tales that
If
may or may not be?
Filoni's involved, these are canon.
Okay,
If Filoni is involved, these are canon.
that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, they're too close. They're too close to events that has happened, especially the Ahsoka stories, because they all hinged on what happened in the animated series and also in spots of the live action prequels. The Dooku, uh, I know that there are several books on Dooku and Qui-Gon and so I have not read those books, so I can't speak of that. But as far as Ahsoka episodes, I totally believe they're canon.
Yeah, I think they definitely can be. I don't know that there's any reason not to have them canon. They do really fit well, though.
Yeah,
I'm super impressed
yeah,
in how he took these tiny elements and said, "Oh yeah, this can fit right here,
Yeah.
and this can fit right here, and this can fit right here."
I mean, keep in mind, Filoni now is the creative executive of Star Wars, as
Mhm.
far as it goes. So,
Oh yeah.
and he's brought back. I mean, what I really love is that he's been trying to. You can tell he's trying to bring back some of the legend.
Yes.
Some of the pre-canon, the fodder, the stuff that happened. Basically, what Disney basically in the beginning kind of cut, what they consider cutting the
Yeah.
fat. But you can see where Filoni is bringing back some of these characters like Admiral
Mhm.
Thrawn and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Definitely.
yeah. So, but anyway, you had something you want to interject.
Oh no, that I mentioned it earlier. It was the Alderaan thing.
Alderaan, very good. Yeah, it's yeah. So
Those people went to all the wrong places.
It's a trap.
yes, exactly. All the wrong places. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Well, I loved it. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. But we're gonna have to wrap this episode up, my friend.
let's do this. Let's do that. We've done exactly what we weren't going to do. Go over an hour. So anyway. So thank you everybody for joining us. You can catch us on speakingnerdy.com. We also have our social media page, Speaking Nerdy on Facebook, and our Speaking Nerdy group as well. You can catch us Tuesdays on our audio version of the show and also YouTube as well on Speaking Nerdy
Absolutely.
YouTube. And our audio, you can pick it up on any audio streaming platform that you enjoy listening to because we care about you.
That's right. Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right. This has been the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend and compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe. So you understood. So you understood that part with she came back around. It was going around, and that she and they came back, and so she was better now. But actually, it referred to the thing, the conveyor belt.
Back around.
Yeah. So that was.
Yeah, I got it. I
got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in.
All right.
I'm pretty sure she was also in Alderaan places.
That's true too.